On Sunday, the NASCAR Cup Series took to the rainy streets of Chicago for the Grant Park 220. Denny Hamlin led Tyler Reddick and Supercar champ Shane Van Gisbergen to the first turn. As heavy rain and flash flooding plagued the entire race weekend, NASCAR was still able to delay the race slightly and get it underway with a single file start. Heading onto Lakeshore Drive for the first time, Reddick went for the lead as Van Gisbergen was being pressured by Hamlin's teammate Christopher Bell. We wouldn't have to wait long for the first incident as Eric Almirola went around leaving turn number 5. Almirola was able to get the car turned around and pointed in the right direction, but not even 30 seconds later, Noah Gragson, Brad Keselowski, and Eric Jones all aquaplaned off into the turn 6 tire wall. All three were able to get going, and it would not be the last time that Gragson would find the wall in turn number 6. On lap 2, pole sitter Denny Hamlin found trouble in the wet conditions. His number 11 Yahoo Toyota broke away from him in turn 2 heading onto Lakeshore Drive, and he made contact with the tire wall. Fortunately, Hamlin was able to continue with minimal damage to the left side of the car. The first caution of the day would come out when Kyle Busch nosed his number 8 3-Chi Chevrolet into the turn 6 tire wall. Busch's attempts to back out of the wall were all for naught, and a tow truck had to be sent out to retrieve him. Busch's former teammate Christopher Bell leapfrogged Tyler Reddick and Shane Van Gisbergen to take home the first stage win. As this was a road course, no caution was thrown at the end of the stage, and racing continued. As Bell was crossing the line, Jenson Button went around off the bumper of Chris Buescher trying to go into the pit lane. The 2009 Formula One World Champion was able to get back going, and no caution needed to be thrown. The next time the cars went down the front stretch, Martin Truex Jr. tried to pull off a pass on Shane Van Gisbergen, got loose on the slick track, and hit the outside wall in turn 1. Truex was able to get away with just barely brushing the wall and kept going. The battle for the lead throughout Stage 2 was between Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson. With both drivers coming from a dirt track background, they both excelled in the wet conditions of the streets of Chicago. Just a few laps after getting spun around by Ryan Blaney in turn 11, Alex Bowman's day ended with a grenaded engine on the backstretch going towards turn 6. The caution came out for the safety team to rescue the stranded number 48 Hendrick Chevrolet, which handed the Stage 2 win to Christopher Bell. It was during this caution that NASCAR decided to shorten the race from 100 laps down to 75 due to darkness, in the process bringing in new contenders like Justin Haley, Austin Dillon, Chase Elliott, and a recovering Kyle Busch as drivers who could now possibly make it to the end on fuel. On the subsequent restart, William Byron got turned around in turn 11, Corey LaJoie helped Kevin Harvick into the tire wall, and everyone else stacked up behind them. This caused another caution, but not a red flag, as most drivers were able to escape the traffic jam undamaged. This stack-up benefited quite a few drivers, most notably Trackhouse's Shane Van Gisbergen. On the subsequent restart, Christopher Bell lost it going into turn 1 on the slippery track, throwing away what could have been a second win of the season for the Joe Gibbs driver. Second place starter Tyler Reddick brought out another caution with 18 laps to go as his number 45 Monster Energy Toyota nosed it into the tire barriers at turn 6. Just like Kyle Busch on lap 4, Reddick would need a tow truck to pull him out. With 14 laps to go as Austin Dillon was challenging Justin Haley for the lead, he slid wide and hit the wall, leaving turn 12. Dillon was not able to bring the damaged car all the way around the lap, so he stopped in turn 1 and reversed back into the pit lane, out of the race. Going into turn 2 with 8 laps to go, Shane Van Gisbergen passed Chase Elliott for second. The battle for the lead was on as Haley, who started dead last and was on old tires, was trying to hold off the 3-time V8 Supercar champ. Due to Haley being on old tires and Van Gisbergen being over a second a lap faster, the gap between the 31 and the 91 quickly shrank. Going into turn 7 with 8 laps to go, Van Gisbergen made a move on Haley for the lead, but right as the 91 popped out of line, Martin Truex Jr. hit the tire wall in turn number 1. Haley had to hold off a fast-charging Van Gisbergen again on another restart. But this time, going through turn 2 onto Lakeshore Drive, Van Gisbergen pulled out of line and went to the inside of Haley. Haley reversed course and went to the inside of Van Gisbergen in turn 3. SVG pulled an over-under and passed Haley again going into turn 4, and this time he would keep the lead. But just as Van Gisbergen was starting to pull away, Bubba Wallace lost it on the front stretch going into turn 1, hit Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and sent the 47 into the tire wall. Van Gisbergen's gap would be erased, and Justin Haley would be right on his tail for one last overtime restart. The 91 of Van Gisbergen, using his newer tires, was able to pull away from a struggling Justin Haley. However, Shane Van Gisbergen would remain unchallenged, continuously pulling away from the 31 and the 9 over the last 2 laps. And on a historic day, Shane Van Gisbergen, in his very first NASCAR Cup start, would win the first NASCAR Cup race on the streets of Chicago. SVG becomes the first driver to win in their NASCAR Cup debut since three-time Indy 500 winner Johnny Rutherford in 1963. Those are your highlights from the Grant Park 220. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any more content. And until next time, bye.